The UFC went out of their way to load up the UFC Vegas 100 card. You heard that correctly. The 100th Fight Night event held at the UFC Apex. And who better to headline the Apex card than Neil Magny? Going up against an up-and-coming prospect in Carlos Prates. We've heard this before. We'll see if it plays out like Neil Magny versus Mike Malott or Neil Magny versus Michael Morales. It could go either way. The line is wide on Carlos Prates, but we're not talking lines here. We're talking early picks, the early leans for every single fight on the UFC Apex 100 card. We'll scroll all the way to the bottom. We started with the first fight of the night, and it's a banger, boys. I told you this card is loaded up. Gore and Antonio Trocoli, two of the highest level fighters we've seen ever step foot into the octagon. Gore, been off for a while. He's had some injuries. He's going to make his return at the Apex against the real prospect in Antonio Trocoli. I mean, this guy, you watched his last fight. This dude's got some talent, okay? Can't wait for this one to go down. Trocoli, very big. The dude's fought at light heavyweight before. At 6'5", he's going to be towering over Gore. He needs to get this fight to the ground, and maybe he can do it. On the ground, he's got some nasty jiu-jitsu. This guy used to be on the sauce. I would hope he's trying to get back on the sauce, because sometimes, maybe it's just over in Abu Dhabi, Carlos Leal, nutritionist. But this dude, if he's not on the sauce, probably ain't going to be looking too good in there. Gore, on the other hand, if he's on the sauce or not, he ain't going to look good in there. Okay, Gore got some power in his hands. He's got some hard leg kicks. But other than that, you can't really trust him. Doesn't have that many professional fights. I would not trust this man with my money. I wouldn't trust Trocoli either, but Trocoli is the underdog, and that's kind of the side that I'm leaning to, just because I think if he can get the grappling going, I think he's going to be levels above him on the ground, but if he doesn't get it to the ground, then he is a sitting duck, because his striking is very bad, and we saw in his last fight against Sharmagomedov, he turned into a punching bag real quick. So my early lean is to Antonio Trocoli, but this is one that's just absolutely disgusting, and one I'd want to stay away from. We'll move on. Gaston Bolanos and Cortavious Romious. So Romious is this dude off the Contender Series, got a contract after beating a Canadian bum on the Contender Series, and I wasn't all that impressed. I've never really been too impressed with Cortavious Romious, just because I don't think his skills are really amazing, but the guy is a freak athlete. Okay, he's going to continue to get better. He's going to continue to hone in those skills. And the massive advantage he's going to have in this fight is the ground game. I think he probably gets it going because he's a freak athlete. He can land takedowns, and his jiu-jitsu is probably the best part of his game. Gaston Bolanos, on the other hand, ground game is not his forte. Okay, this guy wants to keep it on the feet. He's a Muay Thai striker. Not the best hands, but he'll mix in some elbows. He'll mix in some spinning back elbows. He'll mix in some crazy kicks. But on the ground, he's going to be a liability. Now, I'm sure he's trying to hone in those skills, but I don't really see it happening against Cortavious, because Cortavious is very strong. He's going to get you to the ground. I think that's where he's going to keep this fight in his wheelhouse. So I'm going to take Cortavious Romious for the early pick. I think he probably gets this one done. But if he can't get takedowns, or if he just elects to strike like an idiot, he could get knocked out. No doubt about it. But Cortavious Romious is the pick. Massive grappling advantage, in my opinion. Melissa Mullins and Claudia Sygula. So if there's one fight on this card that you need to watch, it is this one. Melissa Mullins, coming off the TKO loss. She's got a lot of motivation going into this fight. And she is getting a seasoned veteran, real prospect in Claudia Sygula. Okay, this girl is beating everybody in her path except for one. Early on in her career, she got submitted. Okay, I went back, I watched some of her fights. This girl's the real deal. I'm joking, okay? Please don't take me serious when I'm talking about these low-level fights. Sygula is not good. She is not good. I don't know why the UFC signed her. Striking is pretty bad. Her ground game is okay, but that's on the Polish regional scene or wherever the hell they're holding these events. She can get girls to the ground, and she's just a better grappler. I don't know if she's going to be the better grappler than Melissa Mullins. I highly doubt it. On the feet, Sygula, her last fight was like a custom rules fight. She fought this 16-1 boxer where literally the custom rules were it was 2 rounds, 3-minute rounds, and you couldn't clinch. I don't think she could go for takedowns. I think it was literally just an MMA fight that was kickboxing. Stupid. Don't know why that's the one that got her into the UFC. I think they're literally just bringing this girl in so they can have another bantamweight on the roster, because Melissa Mullins was supposed to fight Montserrat Rendon. Rendon pulls out, and they got to get her a fight. I think Melissa Mullins wins this. Again, I think she's had a much higher level experience. I know she's coming off the KO loss, and she's been dropped in both of her UFC fights. Not a lot to love there, but I do think she's probably the better grappler. I don't think Sygula has much striking on the feet to where she's going to land a knockdown, and I think she gets this one done. So give me Melissa Mullins for the pick. Disgusting fight. Cody Stamann, Damon Blackshear. So Damon Blackshear, I used to think this guy was good, and I still think he's all right. But my God, the dude literally got KO'd in 12 or 18 seconds his last fight against Montel Jackson. Montel Jackson's good. The thing about both these guys is they lose to good fighters, and they'll beat the lower level guys. So very similar. Cody Stamann's losing to Taylor Lapis and Douglas Silva de Andrade, Saeed Nurmagomedov, Murad Dvalishvili. Okay. Damon Blackshear's losing to Mario Batista, Montel Jackson, Farid Basra. They're losing to good guys, and then they'll beat the Jose Johnsons of the world. So I think they're pretty similarly matched up. I think Cody Stamann probably going to have the better boxing. Damon, very big for the weight class. I think he's going to want to keep this fight at kicking range and then mix in the takedowns and get the fight to the ground. Cody Stamann's a solid wrestler. Okay, he's a guy that is a brick shithouse in there. Moves pretty well. His footwork's pretty well. I think Blackshear might struggle to find some takedowns throughout the fight, but we got the small cage. And I think Damon Blackshear will probably eventually get the takedowns, work his way into the clinch, drag him down to the ground, use that top pressure, and probably win the fight by a decision. Okay, so I'll probably take Damon Blackshear. I'm going to take Damon Blackshear for my early pick. But I believe he's a pretty big favorite. And I don't know if I'd be laying that big favorite money on Damon Blackshear. But he is the early pick. Up the guard. We got Charles Radtke and Mateo Semelsberger. Okay, Charles Radtke coming off the loss to Carlos Prates. And I'm not going to hold that against him, okay, because that knee was disgusting. And I think that would put it down like a full-grown horse or something. You take that knee from Carlos Prates, you're going down. What I like from Charles Radtke, got that solid left hook. He's going to look to land it. And I think he could land it on Matthew Semelsberger. I don't think Semelsberger is some amazing striker, but he's good enough. Okay, he's got a nice little jab. He's got a nice little 1-2. Pretty solid chin. We did see him knocked out against Uros Medic, but that was later in the fight. I think he started to gas out, got a little lackadaisical. Hands come down, he gets hit with something. I think this is a fight that probably goes to a decision unless we see Charles Radtke rack up some type of submission. Radtke needs to exploit the takedown deficiencies of Matthew Semelsberger in this matchup. If he doesn't, it's a 50-50 fight. Charles Radtke, if he uses his grappling, he wins this fight. I'm going to pick Charles Radtke because I think the ground advantage is there for Radtke, and I think he's smart enough to go to it in this matchup where Semelsberger's been taken down many, many times in his UFC career. He's shown that he can get put on his back, and he can stay there for a while. He'll fight off the subs, but Radtke can rack up a ton of control time in this fight, and I think he probably does. So give me Charles Radtke for the early pick. Mansour Abdul Malik and Dusko Todorovic. So this Abdul Malik dude, crazy athlete off the Contender Series. I was looking at, he was fighting Wesley Schultz. Wesley Schultz is a UW lacrosse guy. Shout out to my Wisconsinites. And he ragdolled this dude. I mean, Wesley Schultz gave him everything that he could have. But at the end of the day, he was just way too small and just not strong enough. Abdul Malik is a big middleweight. Filled out, long arms. And his cardio, for the most part, held up. One thing going into that fight was we don't know what he looks like after round one. And he managed to find a finish late in round two. I think the guy is very, very talented. I think the guy has a lot of room to improve. And I would assume we're going to continue to see those improvements. Dusko Todorovic, at this point, not a lot to like. Okay, the guy is, he's never been that great at anything. Okay, he's got a little bit of pop in his shots. His wrestling isn't that great. And I think he probably gets finished in this one, or at least mauled for 15 minutes. So give me Mansour Abdul Malik for the early pick. Don't love taking the Contender Series guys, in their first UFC fight, but I think this is probably a favorable matchup. Todorovic ain't got much to offer. Give me Mansour Abdul Malik. Zaleski dos Santos and Nicolas Dalby. A rematch. I think 10 years ago, these dudes fought. Dalby won it by decision. So, here we are. Dalby's almost 40. Dalby was on that win streak. I thought he could have beat Renat Fakhretdinov. I really do. I had a bet on him, so I might be biased, but I thought he could have beat him. We know Dalby's going to try to push that pace. He's going to want to impose his will throughout the fight, and I think he probably does it. But the thing with Nicolas Dalby is early on in the fights, that relentless pace kind of leaves him open to getting hit. And Zaleski dos Santos, very, very solid striking. Very solid front kicks to the leg. His hands are sharp. He's got pop. So Dalby's got to be very, very cautious of that early on in the fight to not get hit with something and put away. But if he doesn't, he's going to start to take over later in the fight. He'll take round 3 at a very, very high clip. Other than that, I think he probably wins either round 1 or 2, probably 2. And he probably wins a decision or a late finish. But I think Nicolas Dalby probably gets this one done. I'm going to pick him for the early pick. But the dude is getting up there in age. And he's been fairly granite. No, I don't want to say granite, but he's been fairly durable. Being able to fight out of these spots where he's getting hit with big shots might not be there in this fight. We'll see. But I think Nicolas Dalby probably gets this one done. I'll take him. Luana Pinheiro and Jillian Robertson. So Luana Pinheiro was this chick moving up the ranks. She was looking pretty good. And then she ran into Amanda Ribas. And Amanda Ribas took all of her punches and then just took over in round 3 and TKO'd her. And then in her next fight, she loses to Angela Hill. She loses via submission to Angela Hill in round 2. She was getting ragdolled by Angela Hill. Not a good look. Not a good look when you're going to take on Jillian Robertson, who we know. She's going to want to take you to the ground and beat you up and possibly submit you on the ground. I think that's probably what happens. Okay, Luana Pinheiro, not a high-volume striker. She looks to sit down on her punches. Jillian Robertson, very, very tough. She could take the shots. She's going to keep moving forward. She's going to pick that single leg. She's going to drop her to the ground. She's going to get into her dominant position. She's going to land elbows. She's trying to soften you up. She's going to look for that submission. If not, she's going to just keep pounding away. She might find a TKO finish. I think Jillian Robertson wins this one. I don't think Pinheiro has the takedown defense. She's got a nice little judo throw. Maybe she'll hit that on Robertson a couple times, but I think Robertson, relentless pressure and pace will probably just get to her, get her onto the ground, get in her positions, and she'll either find a finish or just beat her up for 15 minutes. So give me Robertson for the pick. This is the fight of the night. Gerald Meerschaert and Reinier de Ridder. I can't wait for this fight. Okay, you know me, I'm a big GM3 fan. GM3 has cashed many, many tickets for me as the underdog. Big plus money on the subs. You know me, I love my sub props. GM3 is the go-to sub prop guy. He's taking on the newcomer here, Reinier de Ridder. I watched some tape on this Reinier de Ridder guy. So if you're not familiar, he was the one middleweight champion. And his only losses are to Anatoly, whatever you call him. Russian dude, big motherfucker, stocky as shit, strong as shit. I don't think he had any reason taking on Reinier de Ridder, but he did, and he beat him twice. Other than that, Reinier de Ridder has ran through a lot of people. Very, very solid ground game, dangerous jiu-jitsu, solid top pressure. But I don't know that his cardio is the best. And I don't know that he does very good off of his back. We know the deal with Gerald Meerschaert. He's going to take his beating. He's going to look to take over later in the fight. Now, Gerald has actually been submitted in the UFC. If you didn't know that, it was by Jack Hermanson early on in his career. He's been submitted a lot of times before the UFC, but he's had a lot of fights. And a lot of those are just low-level fights where he's just taking fights to take fights. Probably very early on in his career before he was that great. It's going to be a grappler's delight. I was about to say striker's delight. This is a grappler's delight. Reinier de Ridder probably going to have a lot of early success. If Gerald Meerschaert can weather that, if he can start to make him doubt himself a little bit, being like, why isn't this guy going away? Why is he fighting off these submissions? Then GM3's taking over. Okay, that's what GM3 does. GM3 is the early pick. He's the underdog in this matchup. Once again, we get GM3 at underdog odds. I'm about it, bro. I'm about it. Give me GM3 for the early pick. Ricky Turcios and Bernardo Sopaj. I've never been a big believer in Ricky Turcios. I think this guy is all hype. Now, it's not like he's just some hyped up prospect, but people kind of like him because he's crazy. I think he sucks. Now, I'm not saying he sucks to the point where he's worthless in the octagon, but I think he does a lot of stuff that's just not even necessary. When he's getting taken down, he's just slapping the face. Like, bro, maybe try to just defend the takedown instead of slapping this dude's face. I was big on Raul the submitted because this guy, Ricky Turcios, he ain't it. Now, Bernardo Sopaj. Sopaj is, he looked great in his UFC debut. Was Mullins Vinicius Oliveira. And then he gassed out. Short notice, stepped up to the plate. Mullins Vinicius gassed out, gets flying kneed. Probably the nastiest knockout of the year outside of like the bigger fights. So we'll see how he bounces back from that. In all reality, I think he probably does take down Ricky Turcios and put him through the ringer because Turcios has terrible takedown defense. Like I said, he doesn't defend takedowns. He just slaps your face. Stupid. But he does it. Does a lot of stupid shit. But he's got good cardio. He's got a good pace. And maybe he could tire out Sopaj and take over later in the fight. But I don't really see it happening. I think on a full training camp, Sopaj will come into this one with 15 minutes. He'll ragdoll him early, continue to do what he does. And if we look at what Vinicius Oliveira has done since then, it looked pretty good. So I'll take Bernardo Sopaj for the early pick. Women's strawweight, we got Denise Gomes and Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Denise Gomes, I like Denise Gomes because you know me, I like a neck tat. I like a neck tat on a woman because that means she has done some dark things in her life. Okay, she has been through some shit. That also means she's probably swinging for her own team. Okay, and that means a lot in women's MMA. Denise Gomes, Brazilian, neck tat, and just look at the haircut. You could tell me her sexual orientation. Okay, that's huge. Karolina Kowalkiewicz, on the other hand, very old, very experienced, but I don't know if it's going to matter because I think Denise Gomes, I don't think her striking is not even close to as technical as Karolina because Karolina is very technical. You know, she's gonna pop that jab out there, she'll chop the leg kick, 1-2, yeah. But Denise Gomes is gonna be swinging those bombs. She's gonna be looking to take Karolina to the ground. I think she's just out physicalities her. However the fuck you say that. I think Denise Gomes gets this one done just based on pure aggression. Being Brazilian, having a neck tat, and being lesbian. But if she starts to slow down, you know, that's where Karolina can take over. Karolina's she's going to be a lot more technical in this fight. A lot of times in women's MMA, that just doesn't matter. Okay, so I'll take Denise Gomes for the pick. The line is wide on her. And I'm not sure if I would be inclined to take that. Probably not, but she's the pick nonetheless. Cody Garbrandt, Miles Johns. So I know a lot of people this week are going to be like, yo, Cody Garbrandt, the title run is on its way right here. But it's not going to happen. They're going to be like, oh, we look so good against Davis and Figueiredo in round 1. Chopping those leg kicks. Hands are looking fast. And I like it. I like that, man. I thought he did look really good in that first round against Figueiredo. But at the end of the day, he got taken down and he got subbed. I know Cody's got that wrestling background. And I think he does have a great chance to win this fight. Because Miles Johns has been beaten up on these lower level guys. But there's just something about Miles Johns in the octagon to where guys don't want to engage with him. If you watch his fights, anybody that he fights, they don't want to engage. Miles Johns must just have hammers. He must be strong as shit. And I think he is. You look at him, he's definitely strong. Probably hits pretty hard. Guys don't want to engage with him. Miles Johns at the Apexes look different. Okay, this dude will throw hard shots. His jab is improving. His gas tank has improved a lot. His wrestling is pretty solid. But what he really wants to do is just grind on you. Throw you up against the cage. Use that strength. Get you off your game. Get you out of rhythm. And before you know it, the fight's over and you lost. I'm going to take Miles Johns in this one. I'm interested to see what you guys got. If you really think Cody Garbrandt's going to come in here and get a win, he's going to have to really throw it back. You know, we know the chin really ain't there for Cody. Miles Johns got power. I'm not saying Miles Johns is some great striker by any means, but he does hold power. Maybe he could clip Cody with something. We'll see. But I think overall, Miles Johns probably wins this one by a decision. Neil Magny, Carlos Prates to the main event. Neil Magny, I mean, does he have one left in him? Does he have one left in him? Every fight that Neil Magny is in, he's going up against these up-and-coming guys. And sometimes he's able to pull it off, but sometimes he just looks awful. And I think it's probably going to be one of those where he just looks awful. Okay? Because you look at him against Michael Morales, round 1 TKO. You look at him against Ian Gary, 30-25 or something like that, 30-24. Terrible performance. And we just saw Mike Malott take on Trevin Giles. Mike Malott looked bad. Okay, that's Neil Magny's best win in the past few years. I think Carlos Prates probably gets this one done. We know Neil Magny is actually very tough to KO. You're going to have to either put him in a bad position and ground and pound him, or you're going to have to catch him with something crazy. Carlos Prates, very, very accurate on the feet. Very, very precise, patient. He's going to have to stay off the cage in this matchup because that's where Neil Magny's going to want to take it. He's going to want to throw you up against the cage and just try to wear you down. Wear you down. Because at range, he's big, but he doesn't use it well. I mean, he's very wide stance. His legs get kicked off. You know, he doesn't have power in his hands. But he is tough to hit to the head on the feet because he's so tall. And he doesn't get knocked out on the feet. So I think Carlos Prates is going to have to land something crazy. But he's very precise, very capable of it. Nasty head kicks, nasty knees to the body, nasty left hand. He can do it all. So Carlos Prates is the pick. I think he gets this one done. And he's going to crack into the rankings. He's going to make some noise. Carlos Prates is the real deal, boys. I mean, he had a very weird career early on where he was getting finished. But, you know, these fight nerds, boys, they're dangerous. They're dangerous. They have good game plans. He comes into this one with a good game plan. Stay off the cage. Pick him apart on the feet. Make him not feel comfortable in there. Slap those leg kicks. Slap those body kicks. Go upstairs. Clinch up with those knees. I think he gets this one done. Give me Carlos Prates. Those are the early picks. Appreciate y'all for watching. Like the video for me. Subscribe to the channel. We'll be back here later in the week with the official picks and the best bet show. Till next time, hey, Job Picks. Yeah.